Now, a member of the Council State, Sam Okojito, has questioned former President Mahama's basis for rejecting the outcome of the 2020 presidential election when the party is now auditing its figures. The National Democratic Congress's presidential candidate, after the declaration of the results, accused President Akufo-Addo of using the military to intimidate the party supporters and also subvert the will of the people. Well, the former Ghana Bar Association president is, however, blaming the defeat of the NDC on what he describes as negligence on the part of his agents at the polling stations. In an exclusive interview with Kwesi Parker-Wilson, Mr. Okojito challenged former President Mahama to produce evidence in court if he so believes the elections were rigged in favor of the governing New Patriotic Party.
Dispute it. You're supposed to raise that matter there. If you think that the count does not represent what it is there, you're supposed to point this out to the returning officer. Even if you want a recount, because you thought that there was some error, you are supposed to raise that there, so that if there is need to be a recount, the recount would have been done. Because if you don't do that, then whatever result is announced is meant to be authentic. If you have reason to believe that that was not authentic, of course you can challenge it.
But the NDC has raised critical concerns about the authenticity of the results being declared at various constituencies, and also even the presidential result. They've cited instances where their party agent failed to sign the pink sheets, and yet the returning officers at the constituency level declared their opponent winners. Again, with the presidential election, they think the EC manipulated the figures in favor of the governing NPP.
You get the point that if you refuse to sign the pink sheet, the returning officer is not supposed to go to your house to go and look for you to come and sign the pink sheet. If you refuse to sign it...
But you disagree with the figures. And that is why you don't want to sign.
No. If you disagree with the figure, you're supposed to challenge it there and then. It is not a post matter. You're supposed to challenge it there and then. Because you were there when they were counting the thing. You're supposed to participate in all that. You're supposed to participate in all that process. Why did you not participate in the process? Did you go out to sleep? So where were the agents when all this was supposed to be taking place? This is the whole issue.
So does the NDC have a legitimate claim?
Well, that's what I'm saying, that you cannot depend upon your own negligence to go and start attacking the Electoral Commission. You cannot use your own negligence to attack the Electoral Commission. Why were your agents not there?
So you want to say that the party agents at the polling station and the collation center perhaps did a poor job. That is why probably the NDC is crying foul.
Well, they are crying, they should cry foul about the people, the kind of caliber of people they sent to the police station. Or because they were negligent, they want to put the blame on the electoral officers.
Is that your own reading of the situation?
That is my understanding.
You are blaming the defeat of the NDC on your own negligence?
I am saying that if it is not so, they should go to the court to go and challenge. Only the court has the power to check and cross-check that evidence, if they can produce the evidence to support it.
The NDC thinks that they won this election. Just that
you cannot just say you won the election. If you win the election, days after the election, you are not telling me that you are trying to tabulate the pink sheet. If you have not tabulated the pink sheet, how did you come by your assumption that you won the election? This is simple logic. The pink sheet are the ones supposed to tell you what the results were. Now, if you did not tabulate the pink sheets to know what the result is, and to tell you this is not mathematics, it's only arithmetic. You don't even need the dumbest person can do it, because these days the computer adds it up. You don't have to do anything.
There was heavy state security military deployment at the office of the Electoral Commission in the Ashanti region on Tuesday as supporters of the National Democratic Congress protested the 2020 election results. The protesters demanded to meet the regional head of the commission, who had directed them to leave a petition behind. Leader of the protest, Dr. Hannah Bisu, insists that they will declare the former president winner of the 2020 election if the Commission refuses to rescind its earlier declaration for the MPP. Nana Ojima followed the all-women protest of the NDC and filed this report.
Led by the National Women's Organizer of the NDC, Hannah Bisiu, supporters of the opposition party went through the streets of Kumasi to protest the 2020 election results. The procession started from the party office at Amekum. The NDC Women's Wing says they will risk everything to see their flag bearer, John Mahama, declared president-elect. They say no amount of intimidation from security services will make them rescind their decision. Women's organizer Hannah Bisiu spoke to JoyNews.
And before there can be peace, there should be justice. If you continue to say Nanado is the president-elect without doing the right thing, there will be no peace in this country. John Mahama will also be declared as president-elect. If it's about our problem, then let us know. So that's why we are here. We are asking them that please get back to your tables. Get back with the various political parties and let the voices of the voiceless that we voice out through our tongues on 7 December be heard.
It took police personnel to restrain the agitated women from attacking onlookers who disagreed with them. Behind me is a barricade the police have made to restrain the NDC supporters from getting access to the Regional Coordinating Council, which leads to the office of the EC. Now, what the police are doing is that they are calling out officials of the EC to meet them and find out why they are here. They continue to chant, "No Mahama, no peace." There was heavy police and military deployment to secure the office of the EC. The NDC did not hand over a even though a staff of the commission was present to receive it.
We were here to speak to the EC, but we realized that they've gone. Our petitions will get to the right places, because in any case, nobody sends a petition to the chief armed robber when an armed robber robs him. So we will not bring it to you, but we are making our voices to be heard as women. We are making our voices to be heard as mothers, as wives, as aunties, as grandmothers, that we want peace in this country.
From Kumasi for JoyNews, Nana Ojima reporting.
Here in Accra, she was not a voter but quite active in the politics of Odododiodo. That's according to the family of 15-year-old Rita Otu, who died in a shooting incident at that constituency during the December 7 polls. Rita is one of 2 teenagers who died in this year's election. The family tells Ernest Menu they want support to bury her, as that could help the mother come to terms with the situation.
We're here now at Bukum to speak to the family of one of the victims. Aside Emmanuel, who was also shot, there was a young lady, 15 years of age, Rita, who was also shot and died eventually. We'll speak to the mother of the 15-year-old and some relatives here at Bukum.
Ni about to it. Go look where no
After I'd voted, I decided to go do business because I'm a single parent. I have no one to help me. Soon after I returned from the market, I heard people screaming. They said my daughter was dead, but I couldn't believe it. So I followed up to the hospital, and indeed, I saw my daughter was dead.
Rita's grandmother believes she was shot multiple times on the chest.
I was about to take a nap when someone told me that my granddaughter had been shot dead. They asked that I come along with them, but I couldn't. So they showed me a picture of my girl It was her. She had several bullet wounds on her chest. My granddaughter is dead.
The families want the two parties, the NPP and the NDC, to take swift action and help them bury their daughter.
We're celebrating the supposed victory of the NPP. She supports the NPP even though her mother sympathizes with the NDC. None of the parties have been here to mourn with us. They should help us bury her. We plead with them. Nebanga me aka mami eke na me fa me Paul NDCM ni mi MPP do fi aga no mi ya le no na bile nyense na support mi mu MPP ayanyi no ina bile ana le bi ni je na kana asane ana le na kan won kpanye fai nye wani wo fun agbekin ta wo na fun.
Away from that, the Ministry of Health says it is still committed to providing healthcare facilities with the necessary amenities to continue the fight against COVID-19. Ghana currently has about 920 active cases of the disease with 327 deaths. Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Bernard Okoboy, revealed these at the induction of the newly qualified medical and dental practitioners, physician assistants, and certified registered anesthetists in on Tuesday.
The last time I checked, we are doing about 920 or so active cases. Our mortality rate remains very low, about 0.6%, and our health workers have not given up the fight. It is important to state here that government is still committed to the fight. We'll still continue to resource all health care institutions with adequate PPEs. We'll continue to support the testing centers with the relevant, consumables to make sure that we continue to test, to trace and to treat, and to ensure that all Ghanaians are protected in these unusual times.
So our last story, a number of communities in Kumasi have benefited from government's Year of Roads agenda. Various roads in Kumasi have seen a facelift. However, motorists are not enthused with the poor state of the Tek Adum Highway. Emmanuel Say has more in this report.
One section of the Tek and Loga Junction Highway has received attention for rehabilitation. The other half has been left unattended. Portions of the road keep deteriorating, posing a threat to road users. Motorists are compelled to swerve a deep pothole at Anloga Junction to have a smooth ride. Drivers and pedestrians are unhappy with the state of the road. Whenever the traffic light turns green and drivers move, they all try to avoid the pothole, and that is likely to cause a crash. We expect that it will be fixed as soon as possible because it does not help. There were a lot of car crashes on this road. The other lane on the Aloga Junction to Tek is very bad. The contractors fixed only one lane of the road while the other lies unattended. Now that the government has won 4 more years, we ask that they continue with the road construction. Sister B, baby, motorists are hoping the road will be fixed to save lives and give meaning to the government's Year of Roads mantra. Emmanuel Osei reporting.
And that's how we end the AM News, but the show continues, and my name is Mapita CBD.
Hello, good morning. If you're just joining us, you're watching the AM show. Just gone by Mapito Sibidi with the AM News. We're going to be looking at the newspapers to tell you what's making headlines. We will touch base with myjoyonline.com. Benjamin Akapo has been dispatched. He's off somewhere roving, but Joseph Akable is here to help me with the review. So let's say good morning to Joseph Akable. It's been a long while.
I'm around. I was here, I think a couple of days back. You were not around.
Oh, that would be Thursday, maybe?
I don't remember, but I remember I was around. You were not around. So, I mean, it goes either ways, but it's good to see you.
Seriously?
Yes.
Are you telling a thing on me on my own show? Hello?
I'm telling you what's been happening.
But you're good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
All right, great. So one of the things that we'll be doing on the show today, because former President John Dramani Mahama has been speaking to the VOA, and one of the things that he says, now we know what the way forward would be if the Electoral Commission does a forensic audit of the just ended election, the 2020 elections, the presidential elections. So we'll be looking at, what legal backing that has, if it's in any of the regulation, because I don't remember if we've had any.
Not in any of them. I mean,
forensic audits in the past.
Request. It's never happened. I mean, the only time that could happen is if the matter goes to the court and the court makes gives such a directive for it to be done. But since Mr. Mahama says that is the only way he would understand, he also indicated that his party is conducting its own audits, and so I guess there are two ways that he's looking at it from, and obviously he will not get that response from the EC. So, I mean, it remains to be seen what the findings of his party's audits will be and what will be decided afterwards. But we understand that he's heading to the Bono region, where one person died during the election. I think two people, actually. So he's going over to meet the family to commiserate with them.
Okay. All right. We'll bring our viewers up to speed when it happens, of course. We will tell you about it. But listen, we're going to Parliament later this morning to speak to two prominent persons on the Constitutional Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament. We're looking for how this could be done in terms of the forensic audits, if we were to even consider it. So that conversation is later here on the AM show. Let's concentrate and do the newspapers now. I'll start with the Daily Graphic. On the front page of the Daily Graphic, just brings back memories of when we once were talking about a towing service, where when vehicles break down on our roads, then we could quickly get the towing vehicle to get the road off. Because what we witness, really, they leave the vehicles there. The best really is to fix them where they break down, and they end up causing traffic, sometimes accidents as well. But we were all against it. I mean, we didn't think that we should be paying for a service that you would not require every day. It was very controversial, except that we haven't replaced it with anything. So the same old story. And the Graphic, I think I should big up the Daily Graphic. This is the second time within a very short time that they are highlighting this issue. And I remember talking to the National Road Safety Authority boss the day that they put vehicles that had parked. They had parked though. It's not like broken down vehicles. They had parked, and this was on the Accra-Kumasi Highway. Here's another highlight of the situation that we're dealing with, and especially when Christmas is just around the corner, and around this time, we record lots of accidents. So here's the Daily Graphic front page again. 9 days to Christmas. Breakdown vehicles hunt for prey. Prey is in quotes, and you know what that is? Human beings, human lives. Motorists are victims, appropriately said. And it says 4 years after an attempt by the government to introduce a nationwide towing service fizzled out, the problem of breakdown vehicles on our roads remains a major threat to safety of road users. While many vehicles break down on the highways, such as Accra-Winneba, Accra-Kumasi, Takwa-Bogoso, the Tema motorway and Kumasi Tamale, there's no efficient towing mechanism in place to clear them as required. Is it required by law? Appropriately, yeah. So we say the beautiful things in the law, we do nothing about it. And I think the painful thing, Joseph, is the fact that even when you highlight the thing still persists.
I mean, I think we have ourselves to blame to an extent. In the course of this particular discussion, it was one of the first issues that President Akufo-Addo had to confront after he had been sworn into office. In the heat of that discussion, we ignored the key point about the problem. The fact that we don't have towing vehicles available in the numbers. We also don't have a mechanism that ensures that they are promptly taken off the roads. In other countries, there are instances where when you abandon the vehicle there, someone comes and takes it away to a certain lot which is identifiable. And so if you leave your car out there and it's a threat to people, it's taken to that particular lot. You go, you pay a fee, you take your car away. And so that was the core aspect of the conversation that we didn't pay attention to. The conversation centered on the fact that it was a mandatory levy that we're supposed to pay. More like an insurance of a sort where people may not make claims.
Exactly.
And so we lost track of the actual need which ought to have been dealt with. I remember the company involved, I think RSTC also, they had a lot of the vehicles that they had brought in. We don't know what has become of those vehicles. I mean, of course, it's a private company. But as the graphic reminds us, the problem persists. And it's a threat around this.
They're actually showing the fact that the towing vehicles also exist.
They are still there.
Yeah, they're still there. Also on the front page, probe all electoral crimes. 16 CSOs charge police. We'll get to that a bit, but still on the police. Police caution against unlawful protests. A picture of Superintendent Mrs. Sheila Kesia Bey-Backman, Director of Public Affairs, Ghana Police Service. And that's coming because of the many protests that we see. And she's reminding the public that if you want to go on a protest, you don't need permission, but you've got to notify the police, I think 5 days before you hit the streets, and that if you don't do it, it's an offense.
Yeah, and so the requirement is once you notify them, if the police don't want you to go, they now have to go to court and get an injunction against you. So it's a very simple process. And in fact, when you notify them, they come and actually give you protection to carry out the protest. And it's interesting, and we must commend the police in the sense that in the last few days, there have been lots of unlawful protests. The police have exercised restraints. They've not gone out there in a heavy-handed manner to try and deal with those protesters. And it's important that they put this information out. And so we also encourage people who maybe are engaging in such protests that, I mean, we are a nation of laws. You cannot just wake up in the morning and decide that because you are unhappy about A or B or C, you are going onto the street. It doesn't help all of us.
Well, let me just also even remind our viewers that they made a few arrests, I think last Sunday. But this was targeted at people who committed crimes, what they thought were crimes. So they arrested a few people. So don't just follow the crowd. Remember that if you did something that constituted an offense, you will be dealt with. Also on page 16, the story of probe all electoral crimes. It says 16 civil society organizations have called on the security services to immediately launch investigations into all reported crimes during the electoral process. Having condemned all acts of violence during and after the December 7 elections, the CSOs in particular wants the security services to prosecute perpetrators of the pockets of violence which have led to various injuries and deaths. That is crucial. That is absolutely crucial because you cannot disrupt a process. You cannot shoot and kill people. You cannot disorganize, bring chaos and just be let go like that. Otherwise, what we are telling people, oh, you can do it, because when people did it back in 2020, nothing happened to them. So appropriate call from the CSOs. If you check the center spread, there's a news feature. It said wasted subsidies worsening fisheries sector. This is, I guess, worthy of notes, if I may put it, that the fisheries minister also lost her seat. And then you remember Neil Ante-Bannerman?
Yes.
Heading is it the premix fuel?
Oh.
Yeah.
The committee
exactly.
Its distribution.
And he didn't make it as well.
Actually, I was
They're all along the coasts.
Yes, I was listening to Richard Kojinyako on SMS, I think 2 days ago. He was talking about how the coast, the MPP didn't do well along the constituencies that have coastal towns because of the issues relating to premix. The same thing happened in the Greater Accra as well. That's how come they lost a lot of the seats like Lejo Kuku, Krow, among others.
Yeah.
So it's a major issue.
Absolutely. Also, NDPC identifies 79 prioritized areas. That story is also in the center spread. On the back page, GIZ presents logistics to police. The German Agency for Development Cooperation, GIZ, has assisted the Ghana Police Service with logistics to build and strengthen its community policing units. So the items, 15 motorbikes, a set of items known in community policing as starter sets, comprising 57 laptops, 57 projector screens, and 57 public address systems. That's a nice gift. Also, benevolent police chief pays medical bills of 36 needy patients. I've got to highlight this one. Who's the police officer? He's said to have paid the medical bills of 36 patients who were struggling to pay their medical charges after they had been discharged from the Kwewu Government Hospital. Deputy Commissioner of Police Michael Nketia Frimpong, a native of Kwewu. No, Joseph will have to help me before I massacre the name. They're very prominent. Okay, I don't think he did any better than I would have done. So he paid the bills totaling 10,000 Ghana cedis when he got wind of the patient's predicament. A letter of appreciation signed by the medical superintendent of the hospital said the Kwewu Government Hospital expresses its heartfelt appreciation and sincere gratitude. I'll leave you to read it. What I want to highlight, though, is this man, Deputy Commissioner of Police Michael Nketia Frimpong. On behalf of all the people that you've helped, and sometimes you have no idea how far it goes, I think I want to personally celebrate you on the AM show today based on the story that I have read. Thank you so much for helping the 36 people that you did help. You're not a politician. It's not like you get some extra money from the states, but you did this out of your own heart. So may God bless you, and may he give you a lot more than you gave out. Hallelujah, somebody.
Amen.
Oh, if I had a photo of him, I'll put it on the screen. So if somebody knows him, you can send me the picture. Deputy Commissioner of Police Michael Nketia Frimpong. Yeah, that's it for the graphic.
Let me take you to the Daily Guide. The front page has this disturbing story about confusion over Rollins' funeral. We are told the family had put out a statement, government actually had put out a statement announcing the date for the funeral. There was a letter that was written by traditional authorities to the presidency saying that they were not consulted by the family. And so government has responded that they should meet the traditional authorities, that's the family and traditional authorities, to resolve the issue and inform the presidency. And so that is on the front page of the Daily Guide. This story about witness narrates how NPP chairman died is also on the front page of the Daily Guide. NDC ladies chase journalist. And Greater Accra parliamentary results is on page 13. Concede and stop deceiving the public, NPP to Mahama. NDC has no evidence to go to court. Also, another story on the front page of the Daily Guide this morning. Some more stories in the Daily Guide here. The back page has some sports story. Kotokori versus Tamale move. And Tardy Marathon gets Ghana gas support. And no better manager than Arteta also on the back page. And Ronaldo prefers football, boxing to football. I mean, that's Juventus forward Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, obviously, he's very good at football. So that is it for the Daily Guide.
What's the Kotoko story again? What did Kotoko do?
Oh, we had wanted to switch our home venue to Tamale, but we decided to, because of the...
From Babaya to Tamale?
We're actually currently playing in Accra because they are renovating the Babaya Stadium. So we had wanted to now take it up north because of playing in Accra is being used by a lot of, at least 3 teams. And so Olympics, there's Accra has to focus as well. And so the settling of the match, the timing is not too favorable. And so we wanted to use Tamale. It's not being used currently by any Premier League team.
But they tell that.
We've decided to reverse that decision. The details are on the back page. Don't worry, we'll finish with our story.
How convenient. We decided to.
There's an important story here which I would...
Oh, I'm glad you know that's not important. Nice. Let's go to the important story.
There's an equally important story on page 7 of the Daily Guide. Whilst auditing is ongoing for the pink sheet, we are told that the court registrars have been trained for election disputes. And so some 35 Superior Court registrars across the country have received a training on their roles in adjudication of electoral disputes in the country. The training was organized by the Senior Staff Association of the Judicial Service Association of Ghana and the Judicial Training Institute. And so they have, it has
Actually, they are ready, even though in terms of the presidential, like nobody has gone to them, but they are ready.
Yeah, they're getting ready.
Hey, chai, after the manual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still on that story, the Ghanaian Times has it here. It says, I'll concede defeat only after independent forensic audit. That's the interview Mr. Mahama granted VOA. MPP and DC urged to apply procedures 2020 election dispute, and Ghana Health Service launches 5-year strategic plan to reduce maternal child deaths. The back page does not have the Kotoko story, but it has 554 marginalized girls equipped with skills, and government procures 75,000 tablets for 2021 census enumerators. Also on the back page of the Ghanaian Times, Mamavi.
All right, let's do the New Publisher newspaper next. On the front page, come back home, MPP begs sacked Fomina MP. The way they put it, because we haven't had, like a straight comments on this in terms of exactly what they're doing, whether or not they're begging him. But let's see. It says Majority Leader Osei Mensah Bonsu has confirmed that the NPP has initiated an engagement. Oh, that's not like they are begging him. This is what he told Joseph Mpoku Gakpo. All right, so it's the same one. I thought this one there was something more to, they're begging him, to come back. But this is the JoyNews interview with Joseph Mpoku Gakpo on how there is some kind of process going on to speak to him. We don't know what form that is taking. There are those who have said, oh, they will give him a ministerial position, and somebody's advising that if he gets a ministerial position, he shouldn't take it. But we know that as it is, he's not a member of the NPP.
Yes, and I was reading the provision relating to crossing carpet. He can't join the NPP currently because he entered Parliament as an independent candidate. And so what they are seeking to do is to have his commitment that I will side with the NPP when it comes to determining issues in Parliament. And so once they get that commitment, then they form the majority, in which case, if they are voting for Speaker, he will be voting for the NPP.
Now, who caused up?
I mean, in terms of their approach, I don't think they should go about throwing promises at him, ministerial promises. I don't think that is what will do the trick. This is someone who was vilified. When the president went to Fomena, he said, I can't work with him. When the vice president went there, he also spoke against him. So this is someone that all you have to do is to apologize for the things that you said about
Well,
him.
but considering the fact that he loves the NPP as a party,
yes,
I would think that he would get them to reinstate him. Because if you look at their constitution and everything they've done has been according to one regulation or the other. So they have to get him back into the party, first of all, even though he'll be in Parliament as an independent person and side with them. Yeah. Okay, let's do the bigger stories on the front page. I won't let go. Mahama calls for probe. It's the same one that we've been talking to you about, his conversation with the VOA and the demands that he's making. What we will try and figure out is if that has been formalized, if there's been a formal request on the system, because remember that you were speaking to an international media and we don't know what has happened at home, is if there's been either a petition or if he's going to court to go and make that request. Also, Apanyo Top Central Region, NPP General Secretary says he should be rewarded. Apparently, he was the only NPP candidate from the Central Region who pulled a lot of votes. I think in his constituency, to be specific, he didn't add any more to the presidential candidates. That's Ekofo-Addo, but he did definitely got a lot more votes. So he's been fingered, as we say, as journalists, at least in newspapers, and he's been given some praise. And then there's a very tragic story of a truck running over a 5-year-old girl. The girl died on the spot. Details of that on page 2. Her name is Christabel Otu, a young girl, unfortunately ran over by a truck that was carrying sand. This happened last Saturday, and she died instantly on the road. A police report cited by the New Publisher said the lifeless body of the young girl had been deposited at the Elmina Hospital morgue for autopsy. And then the driver who was in charge of the truck that killed the girl was in police custody, assisting in investigations. The truck was loaded with sand from Aswasi in Kumasi. It was heading to Apemso to offload the sand to its owner. And according to police, upon reaching the Apromasi township, the truck knocked down Christabel Otu, before running over the young girl to end her life. That's a very tragic one there in the paper. And then the fire has ravaged at least 3 shops in Koforidua. The blaze was reportedly caused by an electrical fault on the main power supply pole of the Electricity Company of Ghana, which spread to the nearby shops. Though firefighters arrived late at the scene, they managed to extinguish the fire, preventing it from spreading to other nearby shops. Details of that in the paper today. Joe?
The front page of the Finder now it has this story: Dr. Awali's 2020 Ghana Muslim Achievers Awards political personality. Traders optimistic about boosting sales, also on the front page. And ICU-MS yields positive results, blocks leakages, increase in revenue, simplified processes according to the GRA. And Codale saying EC's corrected figures mirror our PVT results. 16 CSOs urge political parties to resolve disputes in court. And NDC's whining can't change election 2020 results. Is coming from the MPP's John Buedu. So those are the main stories from the Finder this morning.
Let's do the Business and Financial Times. On the front page says weak anti-money laundering laws impeding FDIs. There's a need for the country to amend the anti-money laundering laws and comply with the Financial Action Task Force recommendations in order to attract needed foreign direct investment. A report by the Finance Committee of Parliament has stated, comes with a picture of the chairperson of the committee, a man who lost his seat. Well, not because he contested in 2020. He lost the primaries. Mark Esibeyeboa. Also, traders expressed mixed reactions over post-election impasse. MPRA looks to Momo to soar up informal pensions coverage. That's how the front page of the Business and Financial Times looks like this morning.
There's this story on page 3
of the paper. Of this paper?
Of the Daily Guide.
Oh, okay.
It has to do with NDC ladies chasing a journalist. We are told that Samson Kwame Nyameche, the Ashanti regional boss of UTV, was given a hot chase by angry-looking opposition National Democratic Congress women. The incident happened at the Ashanti Regional Coordinating Council as a top journalist had to run for his life. We are told they were led by the ex-NDC Member of Parliament for Tano South, Hannah Bisu, who is also the NDC National Women Organizer. So the angry ladies were at the RCC to submit a petition over their political party's defeat. Mr. Nyameche and his crew were also stationed in front of the RCC to provide coverage for the event, but the so-called petition turned chaotic in the end. And so according to the ladies, Mr. Nyameche was biased in his reportage and claimed that this contributed to the party's defeat on December 7, 2020. And so initially, we are told Mr. Nyameche ignored the insults that were held at him by the women, but eventually things turned from bad to worse for him as the NDC women tried to manhandle him. Sensing danger, the journalist then took to his heels and he was chased.
Well, that's a smart thing to do when you think that you're coming under some form of attack and you're alone. You run away. So good thing that he did.
Yeah, but quite unfortunate. I mean, if someone contributed to your defeat, I don't know what offense that would be. I mean, at best you can report the person to the NMC for breaching certain rules of fairness in terms of coverage. But I mean, to take matters into your own hands.
You know, that's a language that you don't speak to people who are grieved.
Yes, you have to
flee
first.
Exactly. So that's a wise thing he did.
We can talk about that.
All right, let's do the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Front page of the Daily Dispatch, MPP's political toothache. Race for it 2024 flag bearer slot starts. You see, that's the thing with politicians. Let's just take a second and think about this. We follow them, okay? But what they're actually thinking about is like you trying to get a secure job. They're thinking about the next race, not this one, not the one that has just happened. So you see,
there are some names out already.
Yeah, there are names that it's just a projection.
Oh, okay.
We can't say for sure if they're going to contest the 2020.
Who is after Alan Chemanti?
There's Kennedy Japan.
Kennedy Japan?
Yes. There's Mr. Jogate, who himself has said it. Have you seen the video where he talks about he says, going for 2024?
He will contest.
Interestingly, they were talking about his poor performance in the just ended exercise, right?
Okay, I mean, by poor, you mean that the winning gap is closing. you know, there's a trend when you contest multiple times. Yesterday, I was looking at some figures. you know, Papa Usankoma, he decided not to contest again. It was a smart move. I was looking at Winchi. You see the trend that when you are seeking a third into a fourth term, your figures tend to drop. And that's when, if you don't read it well and you're not careful, you end up losing. And so he's been around for too long, and that's why his votes are dropping. But he wants to now move his camp into a national one.
Yes, sir.
But I'm surprised about Kennedy Japan.
I haven't heard him say himself. Okay, let's just look at the names here. There's Dr. Muhammadu Baumia, the Vice President. There's Mr. Alan Chemanting. There's Mr. Kennedy Japan, and then there's Mr. Jogate.
I see. It's too early. I mean, and it presents, you know, it presents fresh challenges to the president in that he's in his last term. He'll be seeking to put together a government, and he'll be thinking at the back of his head that there are individuals he may be appointing who may be eyeing replacing him eventually. And so it's a pretty dicey situation, and hopefully the government should, at this stage, be focusing on setting up a good government for the next term, and also making sure that such things does not happen.
Did you hear what I just said? Typically, the politician will be looking at 2024, not 2020. This one is done.
I see.
Oh, you didn't know?
No, I knew that, except that the man who will be leading the next one will not be seeking re-election, and so he also has a country to run.
So you're talking about, I guess, somebody would definitely have an advantage if they're thinking 2024 and they are in this government, or they're in the next administration and they get a very prominent position. It will mean that they can be doing, how do we say it? PR. You should be doing things that would get the people to remember you, you know, when they find you on the ticket someday. And
I'm told that in the past, if you are not fortunate and you get an unfavorable ministry where there's a lot of pressure to, you may become unpopular before the election period, begins properly. And so
it could be a trap.
It's a lot of, but I think the focus when he's forming a government should be on, it will be better if he looks at those who will not be interested in.
Those who don't have ambitions. That's what you mean?
Yeah.
We'll wait to see. We'll see. All right, so I guess we can just do myjoyonline.com, and then, you know, we'll call it a wrap, maybe. So if we're ready to do myjoyonline.com, is there one more thing you want to do with the papers, though?
The UTAG story on myjoyonline, very important story. UTAG request status of public universities bill relayed before Parliament. So UTAG, I read an article by Professor Atuguba this morning, very interesting analysis. It breaks down the challenges with the current bill that has been put before Parliament, including how the president has the majority on the council to the extent that even when the chairman is not around, the requirement is that a presidential nominee chairs the council nonetheless, not the other members that will have the opportunity. And again, they can reconstitute council at will. If there is something like a loan that they need to take, they have to go to the ministry for approval. And the Minister of Education's justification for that is that in the past, a university like Legon contracted loans that ended up putting government in a lot of financial difficulties, as in government had to pay for those loans. But Professor Atuguba has an interesting perspective on this particular.
It's also one of the things that we'll be breaking down. So we'll be sharing the thoughts of Professor Atuguba on the show later this morning. Plenty of stories on myjoyonline.com. Make time and go and read and explore. But before we go, there's something that I want to share with you just before we make way for Oreko Ampofo. Are you interested in learning about the impacts of cloud on your business? Then join the Invest for Jobs on Joy FM Facebook page on the 16th of December. It's 16th today, isn't it? Make a date. It's 2:30 p.m. today. 2:30 p.m. today. Later this morning, though, we also have AM Business. We do that every Wednesday. It's brought to us by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. Stay with us.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM Sports with me, Oreko Ampofo. Well, it's been a good 24 hours or 12 hours or so for Ghanaians, because the good news coming in is that Ghana's Black Satellites beat Niger 5-3 on penalties to reach the finals of the WAFU Zone B Cup of Nations in Benin. The win also qualified Ghana for the 2021 Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations to be hosted in Mauritania. Now, Ghana, three-time African champions, will be making a record 11th appearance at the competition slated for Mauritania in 2021. And the Black Stars began the game by pinning their opponents in their half as Ghana pounded pressure from the flanks. The Nigerians played most of the game by sitting deep and relying on the break. Substitute Frank Boateng converted the winning penalty for Ghana in a pensive shootout at the Charles de Gaulle Stadium in Porto Novo.
Thanks beautifully. Sule! That would have been a perfect goal, but once again, goalkeeper Abbas Abubakar Isaka to the rescue of Niger, the Nigerians. Midfield tussle there. Suleiman wins the ball beautifully, sends a long one in, trying to locate Precious. Precious controls beautifully. Precious, but too fatty. France lands ahead. How was that an offside? Ghana to be the first side to kick, and it is William Emmanuel Esu puts the ball at the back of the net. Now will he be able to stop this Esu? Throws the ball away. Mamani goes for over the bar inside the net. Sule for Ghana. It's a goal. Sule puts it at the back of the net for Ghana. It's 2-0. He scores. Lamini scores. It's 2-1 now. Abdul Mugiz Zakaria. He scores. 3-1 for Ghana. 3-1 for Ghana. Is the captain of the side, Abdul Mumin. It's the captain of the side, Abdul Mumin. Scores. It's 3-2 for Ghana. Precious. And it's a goal. Fagahum. Abdul Malik Mustafa Fagahum. Abdul Malik.
So that's victory for the Black Stars Lions of Ghana, essentially qualifying them to the 2021 Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations set to be hosted in Mauritania. So a big congratulations to this side now. But let's come back to Ghana, where we do have a special feature for you. And Inter-Allies Richmond Lamte scored a wonder goal for Inter-Allies against Accra Heart of Oak on match day 3, and it was indeed a superb strike from about 40 yards, and it's one of those goals that don't tend to come around a while. The last time that he scored one of that was about 5 years ago when his side met Heart again. So he does have a record of doing something similar. And George Adu Jr., who's my colleague here at Joy Sports, came up with this feature to hear from the player on his thought process behind this wonderful strike.
Footballers worldwide are expected to score goals from the penalty box, from the 12-yard box, in fact, in and around the 18-yard box. 20 yards, 25 yards makes a lot of sense. But not all footballers have been able to master the art of scoring goals from as far out as 40 yards. Well, in the Ghana Premier League, we have one of such rare talents who is able to hit ball from as far out as 40 yards, 38 yards, with the accuracy, with the speed, and the right technique. He has scored 2 goals against Ghana Premier League giants Accra Hearts of Oak and is looking to replicate that against quite a number of Ghana Premier League sides this season. We're here at the home of Inter-Allies to find out about the rare talent, Richmond Lamptey. Should be a very exciting journey. Hello and welcome.
In 2018, I was in Tarais. I scored against House of Folk. So this is not my first time.
So this is the second time you're scoring this goal against?
No, this is the third time. Okay, this is the third time. Second time I'm scoring against House of Folk.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So did you the Hazakes one too? Same thing. You take us through the Hazakes one.
Okay. It was on the side of the 18. The center line. So I made the first control, and then I drived, and then it entered the pool.
Do you remember the 2018 one, the House of Folk one? What happened in that one too?
2018, it was from the right side. It's the same as Sunday's own my goal. I got a pass from the right side, and then I made the first control, and then I hit the ball, and it was a goal.
And you scored?
Yes, please. I received the pass from the right side of the field. It was from front of the goal post. So with my technique and then the belief and then the determination, I was able to score.
And when you scored the goal, what do you remember?
When he just controlled the ball, I remember against the same team, that was last 2 years.
2018.
Yeah, that was in Tema. The same team, they gave him the ball, then he put his leg on the ground, then he shoots. When he shoots, and the ball goes inside, and he doesn't run, use his energy to run and go and meet. He just pull his pants while he's walking with the flare.
Charlie, you have to take this again. This is serious. So it has happened before.
Yeah.
So take us through it again, and where you realize you're going to hit the shot.
It happens in the game. Moreover, when immediately the control will tells you that he's going to shoot. Immediately, you just stand on the right foot and control the ball to the left.
Yeah, he's going to shoot.
He's going to shoot, no matter what. Even when you call him, or maybe when you give him money, don't shoot. He will shoot before. He will. Yeah, that's how I know him. He
controls the ball on the right, and
when he use the right and step on the ground, and then he control with the left, definitely he's going to shoot, no matter what. Immediately, just he's facing the pole, he will shoot, and he has that power.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you saw the ball hit the net, how did you guys jubilate?
But I was saying, wow, he did it again. But immediately he just controlled the ball, and then he put the leg on the ground. I remember Tema against House of Folk again. Then when he just shoot the ball, then I would just say, Alhamdulillah.
To be real honest, I was not surprised, but I was surprised how good it was. But he also does it at practice, you know. He has a very good technique, even though he's not such a strong boy. It just shows if you have a good technique, you can finish very well. It was a very, very good goal.
Very good goal, wow. Yeah. So it's something he has been doing in training anyway?
Yeah, he has done that. And sometimes, you know, the game before, if you check that game, he had 2 free kicks.
Yes.
It was 200 meters away from the goal. But sometimes when you have technique like this, you hit it really well, like he did, and it was a beautiful goal.
That's right. So what was the, because there's been a lot of buzz about the goal, and the whole of Ghana is talking about it. How have you handled that buzz? Everybody talking about it?
Yeah, of course. And you know, I'm from Denmark, and everybody following it down there, and all the players from Intialens to Denmark. So they send it all over, and they all write, "Wow, what a goal!" So
I need to hear it again.
It's in
People
Europe.
in Denmark loved it.
Yeah, it's all over Europe now. You know, all my contacts are send it out. So wow. It's a big thing. You know, it's not normal you see a goal like this. It was fabulous.
Then for you, how important was that win?
Well, I think first of all it was important that we start scoring, because it's been a problem for us. We've been defending very well, but it was of course a very important goal. When it gives 3 points, it means a lot.
For attackers to get on the end of it, because the least contact with the goalkeeper is a foul.
Awesome! Brilliant goal! Into our life!
They should expect more from me. This kind of goals. I'm scoring this kind of goals.
Yeah.
What a way for Inter-Allies to grab their first goal. That was a special feature put together by George Adu Jr. speaking to Richmond Lamptey of Inter-Allies about that wonder strike that he scored, possibly a contender for goal of the season as early as match day 3. That's how I'll be wrapping up the sport here. My name is Ore Kuwampofo and the AM show continues right after this.
Hello there, it's another Wednesday. On Wednesdays, we bring you AM Business. So what's in our package this morning? Well, Christmas is just 9 days away. And if you've been around town, you would have noticed that traders are changing their chairs and tables to meet the demand of prospective buyers. But this year's festive season is one of a kind because COVID-19 has disrupted sales. In today's AM Business, we gauge the temperature of our market centers ahead of the festive season.
It's your storm.
Christmas is that time of the season when market centers get colorful and choked. This is when traders make the best profits they could to end the year strong. The Joy Business team set out to find out from traders from the Central Business District of Accra how sales is mounting up ahead of the festive season.
Oh, as for this year, the business is not moving at all. Compared to the other years, it's very bad. It's dull. We thought after the election it will move, but we are not seeing anything. We are not seeing anything at all. People are complaining that there's no money in the system. They've used all the money for campaigns, so no money in the system. So they are not buying anything at all. I sell children's wear, girls' dresses.
Business is not moving at all.
Moving at all. It's very dull. Very, very, very dull. Last year was better. It was very, very better. They asked for this year. Maybe from next week going. People, because they said they've not paid and they've not given them Xmas bonus. And because of the COVID too, most people are not working, especially the private school teachers, and most workers are laid off. So no money. And I learned they've given some loans, so everybody too is doing business. So now we the sellers are more than those who are buying.
And I feel so nice about 20 no. I feel be I started in time. Now fears about 20 I started in time. And so crying uncle pandum. Yato abayu ya kofa yato.
But your COVID, the month for the COVID affect your business. Who can it?
COVID there. How am I affected? I'm affected. And you may be affected. Next way no. It's not so many to me uncle farm man in Tina. I'm a crana or hono. And one or my year my yeto. Ntamane bo ne kwosoro kakra so kra yeto obi a odi openo oba wo kache onya botre aka kire ni so ebi a yare ni ntino ama se ni amane bo kwosoro kakra nti omoto neto de yeto we num nyina yeto we decorations ni ama no light is yeto we num nyina won so amade siesie asori dem efie ene ayi nyina obo wa o di ne ba birthday obo wa o ye bibi sei bibia nti eto say the siesie demo asori demo bibia obi ti make so me to bi kura akocha me dofo bi asiesie ne dem nti yankopon adaworo ma eto why yanka say yanto eka say yanto na me otiafo nyame de oye bi ma wo a na waka why si nyame adom nti eto
oh mpacho se na etie no saa na etie last year no se na ye start no se na ye hunu saa na this year no saa na etie COVID-19 de aka nyaman nansu enye din kakra ama nyama aba fom kakra but nyamni wo tie no say kakra de se na yepe no yebe hunu saa.
The coronavirus pandemic has dealt a huge blow to Ghana's economy, with over 100 million cedis lost to the informal sector alone. Here is Ghana's statistician, Professor Kobna Ene.
These are giving us guidance on the targeting that needs to be done if we want the impact or the recovery plans to achieve its optimal return. We further look at the slowdown of demand of goods and services, and the question that we posed to these businesses was just for them to tell us whether the demand for their goods and services had remained the same, had increased, or had decreased as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and the related responses. And we saw more than 476,000 businesses that experienced a decline in their demand for goods and services. And in my introduction, I indicated that this reduction in demand could have arisen for diverse reasons. One had to do with the wider effect of the lockdown, and the aspect that we may want to pay attention to is the new spending priorities that consumers will now focus on as a result of the anxiety that we continue to experience because of the sense that much would all appreciate the fact that it was under the period of the partial lockdown.
For as low as 1 cedi, you can embellish your room with these Christmas decorations, but traders here are not pleased.
This year's sales is very bad as in compared to the last year. The last year's sales was good, but this year's sales is bad due to the people are afraid to come to the market because of the giddy. So people can't come to the market. So this year's sales is bad.
So looking at the things around here, what have they purchased mostly?
Is the decoration.
How much is it?
3 cedis.
And how much is this?
5 cedis.
5 cedis.
Yes, my name is Daddy Squatty. I sell lace and small clothes.
So how is sales going this year?
It's not good. This year it's not good at all. It's not good. It's bad. Last year is good. We said last year is not good. Last year is good. This year there is not good at all. The COVID and the voting, because misunderstand. This say I pass. This say you lose. They know and no understanding because just understanding everything is bad. Market not good because of the voting and the COVID.
How long have you been doing this business?
Oh, long time, since 1996.
Think this year is the worst of all?
Oh, this year is not good. The market is not good. Let's by this time. If you see my waist bag full, but this see, nothing there inside. This year there is not good. It's not good at all.
Oh, Gloria, Hosanna in excelsis.
Christmas is a time to enjoy, make merry, and make money.
Okay, I came to buy a lot of things, and I'm a business lady. I do trading and other stuffs. But today, when I came to the market, there's some differences that I wasn't expecting. So the money that I was thinking that how things would cost, it has been reduced. It has been. I don't know how to say it, but this is not what I was expecting. I expect that things will come lower than what I was expecting. But when I came, the rice that I used to buy and some of the ladies' bags that I used to buy in a low cost is very expensive. So due to that, the number of things that I normally buy, it has reduced. So I was asking some of my customers that what was the cost. But they too, they don't know what actually is the cost. But we are also in the system, we are managing. Actually, I can't really tell. But now, you can see see that because of the COVID, everyone, when you go to the market, they will all be giving excuses that because of COVID, things have changed, this and that. But I don't know. I can't really tell. I don't know. Some are saying because of the current situation about the COVID and our election and other stuff. But for me, I can't tell. I'm just expecting that things should be better. There's a big difference. Yeah, there's a big difference. That's what I can say. Because last year, things that I used to buy with the money that the capital that I brought to the market is far, far different from this one. What I brought to the market and things that I've got to the house is really discouraging. I'm totally, I don't know. I'm not happy at all.
Any materials. The Christmas time, no social member, stands befa. Prices are costly. There's a Yamano. Yamaka crown. I don't know those Yamano. It's on my bona costly. This the alcohol for the go on a Santa. I'm going to be able to. So I stand my price now costly. Bells are ringing. Ding dong, very the sky.
But this year, according to these traders of the Central Business District.
You know, when you used to buy a crate of egg for 20 cedis and you begin to buy for 26 or 28 and sometimes 30 cedis, then you know that indeed Christmas is just around the corner. Prices have absolutely shot up. But we will be sharing with you here on the AM show how to have a very Merry Christmas, even with the COVID around and with food prices going up. So the place to be to get all the Christmas tips is right here on the AM show on JoyNews. But that's it for AM Business. AM Business comes your way every Wednesday here on our show. Now, when we come back, we're talking about the latest comments by former President John Dramani Mahama, the NDC's candidate going into the 2020 presidential elections. He's asking for a few things, including a forensic audit of the just ended election. That's the only way, he says, he would accept the results, as he's disputing the result declared by the Electoral Chair Commission, Jean Mensah. Here is some excerpts of that conversation with the VOA. We'll come back and sit down, or I will be sitting down. They will be sitting and joining me. Mr. Ben Abdallah chairs the Parliament's Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. Also on the show, Mr. Roxanne Nelson Dapamakpo, Member of Parliament Constitutional Legal Affairs Committee. What we will be doing exactly? Well, tracing. Have we done this audit before? Where in the law or in the regulation can we find it? Essentially, what's backing this request? Is there a legal backing to it? But first, here is that interview with the VOA.
In the run-up to the election, there were a lot of flaws in the process, and we kept drawing attention to them. And it's like the Electoral Commission was adamant to our call, but on election day, we saw exactly what happened. This is the most incompetent election we've had. I mean, everything about this election does not reach the standard that Ghana's Electoral Commission, has attained for itself. Ghana's Electoral Commission is held in high esteem as one of the best electoral commissions. Unfortunately, this election, she can't even get the results right. The declaration is all over the place.
Mr. President, I saw your press conference where you rejected the result. So with this rejection, what are you going to do to make your case to the people of Ghana? Since you said they voted for you, how are you going to convince them that you won the election?
Well, we know we did, and we are currently doing a forensic audit of all the constituencies. First, to establish what happened there, and then secondly, to reconfirm the figures that we have. Because this case might end up in court, I don't know. I cannot mention anything for now, but we're doing an audit, and based on that, we'll take whatever decision we need to take. But I think that the incompetence the EC has shown, it will be useful for us to do a forensic audit of the EC's own systems and the numbers to come to what the final number for the EC is. Because as of now, I don't know what number they're going to gazette.
But Mr. President, what is your reaction to the African Union poll observer mission that came out saying that the elections were transparent and credible and that most people were not prevented from voting. The ECOWAS poll observer mission led by Madam Johnson Sirleaf said the same thing, that it was peaceful and transparent. So what do you say to these prominent African organizations that monitor the poll, pretty much giving a stamp of approval to the elections?
Normally, when you have an observer mission like that, you need to wait and see their final report, because often they give the report up to the point of counting. And it's true, I mean, the whole day was peaceful. People went about, voting without any problems, and the queues were orderly, and so they'll say all that. And there were a few instances of people caught with pre-printed ballot sheets. I mean, the video evidence is there. Normally, their final report will capture the collation process, and so this report does not capture the collation process. And a lot went wrong with the collation process.
Mr. President, 4 years ago, when you lost the election, you handed over peacefully. I was here in Accra when you held a news conference that you had called then opposition leader Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to concede. People are saying you have proven that you are a true Democrat. They said, why are you not doing the same thing now?
In the interest of the more than 6 million people who voted for me, I must uphold our democracy and hold our Electoral Commission to higher standards, and hold this government to a higher standard in terms of our democracy. I mean, the way they've conducted this election, the government, President Akufo-Addo, and the Electoral Commission, is a dent to our democratic credentials as a government. And so, in my principles as a Democrat, I can't be seen to be sweeping it under the carpet and just letting it go. I think that we must bring closure to this by seeing exactly, where the issues are. And I mean, if an independent audit is done by the EC, we bring somebody in to crunch the numbers, do an independent audit. If I lost, why not? I mean, I'll be the first to concede and, walk away. But as long as that is not done, and I know that there was a deliberate attempt to subvert the will of the people in favor of the incumbent, it will be wrong for me in terms of our democratic practices to just leave it, because we will not learn the lessons of this election. I think that we must learn the lessons of this election so that we don't repeat it in a few.
And that's former President John Dramani Mahama speaking to the VOA there. Let's get on the phone lines first. Let me just say good morning to my guests. So Mr. Roxton Nelson Dafama, Member of Parliament, Member of Parliament's Constitutional Legal Affairs Committee and Member of Parliament for South Dai constituency in the Volta region. Good morning to you, if you can hear me.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to your viewers.
Let me say good morning to your chairman, Member of Parliament for Fenso South, Mr. Ben Abdallah Banda. Good morning to you, sir, if you can also hear me. You're joining us via Zoom.
Good morning, and let me also say good morning to my friend, Honorable Tafia Pato, and your good self, and all your listeners and viewers.
Thank you very much. It's good that you joined us. But I want to start with Mr. Dafama, just on the back of what we've heard former President John Dramani Mahama say. Mr. Dafama, this forensic audits that Mr. Mahama is calling for, is this something that has been formally requested, and to which state institution?
Yes, we as a party, we are yet to put in a formal request. As you may be aware, we are still trying to come up with very relevant evidence in this matter. But the call for a forensic analysis of the votes obtained is regular and is in place. If we recall, in 2012, when the current president rejected the declaration by the EC in favor of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and filed his petition before the Supreme Court, in the course of the hearing, the Supreme Court had to appoint, we call it in law, expert witness. That is, appoint an audit firm to, as it were, audit and reanalyze and recalculate the votes that were in contention. And after which work, they came back to court to testify to the figures they obtained. So I agree with my flag bearer that we don't really have to go to court to get this done. This can be done by the parties or the stakeholders involved in this matter.
Isn't there a clear difference, Mr. Dafamako, because you say when you cite the 2012 petition that that's what the courts did. The difference here is that this time is the candidates that is saying this. So, I mean, if the court speaks, it's different from the candidate speaking.
That his call is actually supported in law. So I gave you an instance that when His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo went to court in 2012 and 13, the court had to also have recourse to an independent audit firm to audit the vote.
Yeah, but
you understand my point?
I do understand you. I guess I'm just a little bit confused because you say when he went to courts. In this instance, you haven't gone to court yet, so you don't know what the courts might say.
But the point I'm making is that you don't have to go to court to ask that. You don't have to go to court to ask or to request that because of the discrepancies I have detected in the votes as tabulated by the Electoral Commission. It is proper for an independent audit firm or audit entity to audit the vote. It's a legitimate call.
Okay, so who is this call directed at?
I think it was a point he made during the interview with VOA.
Yes.
Yes, and so it's a matter that leadership is looking at. Pursuant to CI 99, passed in 2016, we have 21 days within which to file our petition after declaration of the result, which was done on the 9th and on the 10th. So we are at a loss as to how to reckon dates now, but that is immaterial. So, but the point I'm making is that it's a matter that we are considering, and in a couple of days' time, the appropriate quarter will be approached with this request.
Okay, so just before I move to Mr. Banda, what regulation is backing this request?
The appropriate quarter will be approached with this request. Okay, so just before
Mr. Dafamako, so there's a delay because I see that you're either listening through a certain device, but if we can just use the phone.
Yes, I'm just using the phone.
Okay, great. So I'm asking which law is backing this request for a forensic audit?
It is, you see, if you read Article 46 very well, which says that except as provided in this Constitution or in any other law, not inconsistent with this Constitution, in the performance of its function, the Electoral Commission shall not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority. If you marry this to the contest at the Supreme Court in 2012, where the Supreme Court, by party's direction, invited expert witness to analyze the votes that were in contention, the call is properly based in law, which is the 2012 presidential petition to have this done.
Okay, so you might not end up going to court to make this request, but you may just do it through the Electoral Commission.
Not through the Electoral Commission. There are independent bodies. In fact, you know that the Electoral Commission, for instance, set up an expert advisory committee some months ago to guide its activities before the elections. You are aware, made up of some eminent Ghanaians.
Well, let me just hold it there. Let me bring Mr. Banda into this conversation.
Very well.
Mr. Banda, so you've been following, and I'm sure that you also listened to the former presidents. My question is, what kind of regulation or law will be backing a request like this?
Thank you very much. Let me first of all say that our former president got everything wrong, and I completely disagree with the submissions made by my friend, Honorable Dr. Mako, to the extent that an independent forensic audit can be conducted in respect of the declaration that has already been made. In fact, we are looking at two very important documents. First of all, the Constitution, and secondly, CI 127, which comprises regulations employed in the conduct of the just ended general elections, which resulted in the declaration of His Excellency, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, as a president-elect of this country. Now, if you look at Article 51, let me start with Article 51. Article 51 of the Constitution is the constitutional basis enabling or capacitating the EC to make regulations for the conduct of the general elections. And you realize that under CI 127, that came out of Article 151 of the Constitution. Specifically speaking, Regulation 4410. You realize that as soon as, we have regional coalition officers in the various regions, as soon as the regional coalition officers submit results from the various constituencies to the head office of the EC, the chairperson of the EC, according to the law, must collate all the results and without any hesitation declare the results as collated. If you look at the language of CI 47, well, that is 4410, the chairperson of the EC doesn't even have any discretion to say that I'm putting in abeyance the declaration of the presidential results, because the specific word used in CI 127, that is in Regulation 4410, is shall. And you realize that as soon as the chairperson of the Electoral Commission declares the presidential results, the chairperson then becomes functus officio. And I believe that if anyone wanted to arrest the declaration of the results, that person should have proceeded to court to ask for an order arresting the declaration of the results before the declaration was made. But as soon as that declaration was made, the EC becomes in law functus officio. And now you realize that under Article 64.1 of the Constitution, Article 64.1 of the Constitution is a constitutional basis whereby if a person wants to challenge the validity of the declaration of the presidential results, that person, Article 64.1, tells us what that person must do. And that person, by Article 64.1, must proceed to the Supreme Court, because it is the Supreme Court that has the exclusive jurisdiction to determine whether a person has been validly or otherwise declared as the president of this country. So what the former president is calling for, and what the Fiamako is saying now, it's not sanctioned or supported by either the Constitution, it's not sanctioned by either the CI 127, which were used or which were used in the conduct of the just ended general elections.
Mr. Ben Abdallah Banda, yes. So you say that the Electoral Commission chairperson, once she declared the results, she couldn't re-examine her decision, correct?
Saying that she cannot change the verdicts.
But the request they are making is not change the verdicts, but the request they are making is audit the results.
auditing the results under which of the provisions or which of the regulations in the CI is the chairperson of the commission mandated to do that, or under which relevant provision of the Constitution is the chairperson mandated to do that. Like I said, the law is clear that once it is declared, the chairperson doesn't have any discretion to do anything pertaining to the declaration or pertaining to the verdict as declared.
Mr. Ben Abdallah Banda, I have also listened to you justify the Electoral Commission chairperson coming back to correct the figures a day after the declaration. So what is different with a request to do an audit?
What I said was that what the chairperson did in coming back after declaration to amend a figure that did not prejudice the outcome of the result, to which the verdict itself was not unlawful. That is what I said.
Yeah, but why do you think that a possible audit could change the outcome of the results as declared by the Electoral Commission chairperson?
Because there is no basis for that. There is no statutory or constitutional basis for that.
But was there a legal basis for coming back to correct the figures?
So far as it did not amount to the changing of the verdict.
But I can't use the same arguments here and say that the audits may not necessarily change the outcome of the verdict. So let's go ahead and do an audit. We can't use the same arguments?
No, you see, the point is that the audit, what is the essence of the audit? The essence of the audit is to determine whether Nana Dankwa was validly elected or not elected, or whether there were some irregularities in the conduct of the general elections. That is the essence of the audit that they're proposing. And this can only be done as it was done after the 2012 elections, when the MP took the matter to the Supreme Court. This can only be done or ordered by the Supreme Court, which has the exclusive jurisdiction to determine whether a person has been validly elected as a president or not.
Let me run this by Mr. Dafamakwa, who's been listening to what you've been saying. Mr. Dafamakwa, it sounds to me that the only place where we can settle this is the courts. And so maybe if you make a definitive decision to go there, it will probably settle all the matters.
Hello?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
I think you are correct with that call, but we are also correct in the call that the audit can be done outside of the court. Why? Because if you read Regulation 44, Sub-Regulation 10, Sub-Regulations A, B, C, D, and E, of CI 127, my chairman missed the point that these are procedures that the chairperson of the Electoral Commission ought to have followed in declaring the presidential results in question. Did she, for instance, complete from 12 or from 13 as set out in the schedule? Did she do that? Now, if she did that, then on what basis did she come back in the declaratory statement on the 10th of December to make amends to figures she had already put out on the 9th of December? So the happenings on the ground lend credence to the fact that there can be an out-of-court audit of the votes as cast and counted and declared. So for anybody to say that this can only be ordered by a court of law, for me, is stretching the point, because the court in its decision in the INRI 2013 Supreme Court decision of the presidential petition actually had recourse to an independent audit firm to assist them And this is founded in our Evidence Act 323, where you can have recourse to expert witness. So it is not always correct that you have to go to court in order to have things tabulated. This is simple mathematics. What are they running away from?
But Mr. Dapamoko, if this is what the NDC and its presidential candidate wanted to do, if it's just a request for a forensic audit, wouldn't it be speedily if you just went to the Supreme Court to request for that?
You see, I already made the point that if you look at the CI 99, which now regulates, which has abridged the hearing of petitions of that nature, if you file a petition and it is served on the respondent who has 10 days within which to answer and also raise any legal preliminary point, the hearing is constricted. They have to give a verdict within 42 days, especially after filing. So the Supreme Court will be constrained in asking an audit firm to do this within a matter of 42 days, so that they can come to a proper verdict. So the auditing of the ballot can be done before we go to court. It is part of the transparency we engender.
Well, how would that strengthen your case or otherwise if the audit is done before you go to court? If the audit is done, per what Mr. Mahama said to the VOA, it settles the score, because he says if the audit is done and it is clear that he lost, then he would concede.
Yes. So it consolidates his point that if the audit is done and it is clear that we lost, he will concede. But if the audit is done and it is clear that the president-elect actually didn't get the 50% plus one, then the Supreme Court will be making a pronouncement in respect of, i.e., a rerun of the election, or otherwise, depending on the relief we seek.
Isn't it, to simplify it a bit, the fact that you are afraid to make a case because it is only when you make a case that you can go to court? You're afraid to put your suspicions out there and get some backing to it for the score to be settled in the courts. Otherwise, what kind of case are you making? Are you just saying audits? Audits based on what kind of suspicion?
Based on the suspicion that the pink sheets that we have in our possession do not lend credence to the fact that the president won 50% plus one to be elected, to be declared. Now, here is the point. Because the hearing of any presidential petition going forward is so agreed, it is proper that the evidence is properly tidied up. Now, why am I saying so? If the EC can, because we are not in custody of the electoral of the ballot boxes.
But you had your agents. You had your agents in all the polling stations, so they would have copies of what was certified, what was announced.
Agents are to assist the process. You are speaking of the ideal situation.
Yeah, but now they were Mr. Dapamoko, are you denying the fact that they were your representatives on the ground? They were your eyes. They were the ones watching on your behalf.
I don't deny that. But I am making the point that where there are contentions and ballot boxes are now in the custody of the Electoral Commission, how do we have access to it to audit? Except all we can do now is have recourse to the pink sheets they have provided us. And in some cases, they have refused to give us the pink sheet. And I speak of the Techiman South in question, for instance. So, for instance, they didn't produce the pink sheet, and that is a memorandum of the elections in Techiman South, but they made a declaration.
Yeah, but are those not isolated cases? Because now you're talking about all 275 constituencies.
They are not. They go cumulatively. They go to undermine the transparency of the process.
So how many pink sheets are in your possession?
We are in possession of about 267 of them. Those that we got through our agents. The Techiman one, we don't have it.
So which other ones?
Ask them for it. They cannot produce it.
Which other ones don't you have?
These are matters of strategy.
So you will not share? Not because you don't know?
No, not because we don't know.
Mr. Banda, the NDC, I mean, you've been listening. Maybe I should just ask for your reaction, because you sit on a very important committee in Parliament where, you know, you check the laws that we have to ensure that it's either not crashing, if you like, and I'm using very simple terms to define the work that you do. But you are privy to a lot of the things that we don't know. Do they have a case, at least hearing the second leg of what Mr. Dafamokpo had to say?
Yes. What my friend is saying is not, to my mind, based on any law, either per the Constitution or the CI 127. If you read Regulation 4411 of CI 127, this is what it says. Let me quote it. An instrument which is executed under the hand of the chairman of the commission and under the seal of the commission, and states that the person named in the instrument was declared elected as the president of Ghana at the election, is prima facie evidence that the person named was elected. And this can only be obtained by a court of competent jurisdiction, which is the Supreme Court. In respect of the proposal that they are making, assuming without admitting that audits have been conducted and audits.
Okay, Mr. Banda, we're struggling to hear you because we're losing you. The connection is going bad. Maybe you might, not sure if repositioning would do, but maybe you might want to try that, and let's see if we can get a stable connection now. My guests, as we talk about this issue, they both are on the Constitutional Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament, just trying to figure out the constitutional basis for a call for a forensic audit, as John Dramani Mahama has said in that interview with the VOA, saying that after an audit, if it turns out that he indeed lost the election, he would concede. Mr. Banda, let's try again and see.
Yeah, can you hear me? What I was saying is that, assuming without admitting that the auditing that, the forensic auditing that they are proposing, is it clear?
Yes, sir. We can hear you. Please go on.
Assuming without admitting that the forensic audit that they are proposing has been conducted, and the result of the forensic state otherwise, that otherwise means that contrary to the verdict of the EC, is the EC going to go back to declare somebody else as having won the presidential election? This will create a very bizarre situation. Like I said, Regulation 4411 makes it clear that once the instrument is executed to the effect that a person has been elected as a president of this country, that election or instrument is a prima facie evidence that the person was validly elected. And the only place that you can challenge the validity of the declaration or the election is the Supreme Court. It is as simple as that. We are working with two very important documents. And the first document, like I said in my preliminary comments, is the Constitution, which reigns supreme over any other law. And the second document that we are working with, or we are speaking to, is the CI 127, which comprises regulations that were used in the conduct of the elections. Other than these two very important documents, I mean, you cannot base your argument on any other document which, as it were, was not used in the conduct of these elections. So the argument that they are making, or the submission that they are making, that there must be a forensic audit, is not sanctioned by any law, it's not sanctioned by the Constitution, and it's not sanctioned by CI 127. So the best place for them if they want to challenge the validity of the election, is to run to the Supreme Court. Why are they afraid to go to the Supreme Court? In 2012, when we had an issue with the declaration of the results, we did not call for a forensic audit of the declaration of the results. What we did, as it was expected of us, and as we also expect them to do, was that we went to the Supreme Court, and at the end of the day, when the Supreme Court declared that John Dramani Mahama had won the elections, we did not say anything. We were not satisfied with the outcome of the verdict, but there was nothing that we could do. And you recall that our then flag bearer did say that he did not agree with the outcome of the verdict, but he will accept the outcome of the verdict. So be it. And we stayed until 2020 election. So if, like I said, they have anything to do with the declaration of the results, I think that the best place for them to go is to go to the Supreme Court.
You know, you lawyers work based on precedents. You cite things that has happened in the past, and Mr. Dafamako cites appropriately the last election petition. So if the courts did something in that case, can we reference that today and say, well, eventually, if we were to go to court, this is what is going to happen, so we can do an audit?
No, the courts did that when the matter had gone to the court itself. The forensic audit was not done before the matter was taken to court. Now, the only person or the only institution that can order a forensic audit to be conducted into the presidential results or into the declaration of the presidential results is the Supreme Court. And I think the law is quite clear on this. And it doesn't admit of any disputation or of any argumentation.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Manda, I thank you very much. But let me get a reaction from Mr. Dafamako. Mr. Dafamako, it looks like the only way out is the courts. Yes,
it's not the only way out. My chairman knows.
Why do you insist it's not the only way out when it's beginning to be clear now?
My chairman knows that pursuant to Article 11 of the Constitution, decisions of the Supreme Court forms part of our law. And I'm saying that in the presidential petition of 2012, the court adopted that procedure to independently audit the ballot box.
Mr. Dafamako, isn't procedure different from decision?
You know, our laws are made up of substantive law and procedural law. He knows that our laws are made up of substantive law and procedural law. So that is one. And two, he creates the impression that we are afraid to go to the Supreme Court. It's not true. Pursuant to CI 99, we have 21 days within which to file after declaration. So we are still within our time to file the petition if we so desire. So they should stop making that comment. Indeed, when President-elect Nana Akufo-Addo rejected the EC's declaration in 2012, when did he go to the Supreme Court? He filed his petition sometime on the 27th or 28th thereabout of December. So they should stop this issue of why are we afraid to go to the Supreme Court. So that is the second point.
Okay. Well,
the third point is that he himself cites Regulation 44, Sub-Regulation 11, and says that the instrument to be executed is a prima facie evidence. It is not conclusive. It is not conclusive. It is only prima facie. So where there are disputes, you go into the dispute. So our call is legitimate. It is founded on, it has its foundation in law, and we hope that they will agree to it.
Okay. Well, Mr. Dafamako,
everybody's side.
We'll see how this I guess, unfolds, where we go to next from where we are.
You are aware that our flag bearer sent a petition to the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, but she ignored it and went ahead to declare.
Well, the last time there was a direct question put to a representative of the Electoral Commission, in this case, Director of Electoral Services on Newsfile, he said he had no knowledge of that. I haven't seen any statement from the chairperson of the Electoral Commission affirming that. So,
well, the request was delivered.
Okay.
So
all right.
they can deny service, but it was served on them. It's as an institution.
Mr.
And that's the fact.
Mr. Dafamapo, I thank you for your time. Congratulations. You will be serving in the 8th Parliament, so I guess we will be having a lot of parliamentary conversations in the days to come.
That's why I joined you this morning.
All right. Mr. Banda, if you still can hear me, thank you so much for your time. You've served 3 terms in Parliament. Sadly, though, we will not be seeing you in the 8th Parliament. I think this, your loss in the primaries was one of my personal biggest blows, because we're losing a very important person in Parliament. It's our loss. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, great. Okay, now let's talk about something else that has happened in our country. Parts of Kantamanto Market has been gutted. And this was by fire, by the way. This was this dawn. My colleague Benjamin Akakpo is live there for us. Ben, what's the situation? We're seeing the pictures on the screen, but what's the story behind it? Hello, Ben, if you can hear me, can you tell us what has happened to the Kantamanto Market, even as we watch the visuals rolling on the screen?
But here, this morning in Kantamanto, now, this is exactly where, a lot of traders engage in knitting, in working on clothes for students, their school attire and all of that. And this morning, it is thick smoke, raging fire, a lot of destroyed property, and many sad faces that have greeted us right here in Kantamanto. I'm sure you can see on your shot, the images coming from here. A lot of, property razed to the ground. And in fact, from what I have been told, the fire started yesterday, last night. People got calls, started trooping in here, but by the time they got in here, the fire was not one that they could control. And indeed, this morning, the scarred bricks, blocks, and all of that paint a certain story. Now, a lot of the people here have sewing machines, electric sewing machines that are burnt to a crisp, and it's been a field day for scavengers. Likely you can see some of them, scavenging scrap metal, aluminium and other products that they mean to use. But we also have, information that to right where exactly I'm pointing, there's a woman who cooks food, not necessarily for commercial purposes, but that supposedly, per the accounts we've been given, is where the fire started, gutting this entire section of the Kantamanto Market. Now, like I said earlier, here the focus is sewing of school clothes for students and all of that, school uniforms, I should say, and all of this has been burnt to a crisp. Now, there are a lot of tales people have been telling me, but let's start interacting with some of those here to find out what exactly they do here and what the story is. Mommy, morning.
Good morning.
What's your friend saying? Mami adwa na den potin na wo ye wa ha.
Pacho me pom squat area me to squat area.
Nti opam eton school atade. Wo store na e wo hefa side.
Pacho e wanim ha. Wo ha no.
Na nsa na ye ba TV so no na wo ka se no wanya contract bi a waje cheche yemu.
Me pacho ya contract no omo de ba edwam ha no. Na ya je no bi enya bi. In last month in the buy and yeah but to abandon in and yet and run a bibia a na me chema on be pamon. Me chema ma fedie. Obia ofa bond se bia fa bond be 30 bond se bia ba fa be 50 ni ade. A omo be pamon. Ene ni nyina na ahye.
Enti chese nini na wo ha a chese ni na ahye.
Dwemu ha. Ni nyina wo dwemu. Ni nyina ahye.
Na niama a wahwere sei no ukoje ho loan bi ana bibisa.
Mbacho loan.
Loan by say ni eka.
Mbacho eniama we some by the account I basi 5 billion then is 6,000.
5,096,000. It's all Kasabaya 50,000 muho Ghana cedis, almost 60,000 Ghana cedis. And a washery. Now, aha, oba, no, then na mote say Emma a J Ebatoha.
I told me the Rami will fear. Anna, me the one man, or mamma didn't hear money be a mom, and frame, almost frame me, or frame me, Michelle, and I'm in fact. In me, or me, or fret was one in me fire. And me so anti madam bread and was wabre, and a man to shit in that. And a white enemy dimly. In bedroom, and me roma any year. And I'm making on man.
Move me for fire service there. Fire service Ebaha.
I can bedroom any fire service, you know. By Nanya de Umbit or more, as Umudu money. You bedroom any fire service, you know, by.
So that is Mabiajwa, who has lost property worth about 6,000 Ghana cedis. She's one of those here distraught, and her story basically is that she had just got a contract to sew school uniforms, and she was in the process of that. Some people had taken lots of bundles working on them for her, because here in Kantamanto the focus is knitting, sewing, and this entire place has been razed to the ground. What next for her? Only God knows. Let's interact with some other people now. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
What are saying?
We did the Kwakumensa.
Kwakumensa, then now we are.
Pacho, me knitting, me pamentary at the microphone, me contract. Me knitting machine, me shop in here. Shop
and sewing machine. I shake Grebe or Hosano.
Pacho Anne, and then your mamma yen now, and Nekamiko Berry, Akobo Abidjan. Abidjan, and your mamma, yes, you win, and in your name, sewing machine in a shake. Nibia ashe bibia say kuta machines 2 knitting machine 2 double 2 ni me enu nyina eniema mapam crofam misika me ye adwuma de amom omo Abidjan ti me ya na me de asende wom omusika omo de amam ama ye sa adwuma ni nyina papa eniema ni nyina hye eni me sewing machine man fa ba kokura enra enyumle be 11 o'clock me tika so anyanya no na madam fo be frame me say me sen ko hwese Kantamanto hye ampani ampa ma na mbeduru abeya 12 o'clock meduru na ahaja dem tata fire service me enu ebi wa ha ebi wo railway si so ebi wo miensa more 4 ebai ye ntimi andum gya no up to now anopa nyina gya no so eda so a ehye yes so many diemu ne ato Kantamanto fo no ye kwanu hiem ye se nsuo ni ho nsuo ni mu omko no maba nsuo ni ho ehye ye bre ye samo samwa bi wo ho metimi de abo ya montwa mani ma Kantamanto school Italian form eni ye na ye anything eno mo pama de ye braye ye na ye just e bro nya ye be de ye nim ne ye be ye nim ne ye be ye ya bra banyina bazalo ye samo man mo moye montwa mani ma Kantamanto na e bra papa ye damase samo tie ye na no pai ye damase
entino niama wahwe no wo kan sika mu a wo hwe e be di be sen
so me kasa niama ye de ama me yankasa de a metwam almost 20,000 I know the amaje on crofo wa ma yamu niama me machines ne de enka ho but crofo sika omo de ama me a me de ye adwuma de ama omo de almost 20,000 I odd cans be 200 million as I see niama ne de ma yes one man can neka me ko beli ni nyina shida
o machines no back on by ne bo be saying
say see no double machine no and I'm 35 million ana your friend said the machine is ko 20 million and to be kuta knitting mienu double mienu knitting ni double ni almost 4,000 and knitting almost 2,000 plus. And mienu no me kamboma na se no so kra me twam abagba 7,000. And even my sewa hano, me hiamwa me sramani de mebre. Some webi ono betimi aboye ya momboye. Na ya breye soon ya ma be ko school jai January ya ma be ko school. And no an yadi be bobom bronya be twen bronya nkolantalia. Ni nyina ya nya ya sramo momboye. Ya dama say.
Now, it's a complete wreck out here, and for him, when you quantify what he's lost, about 20,000 Ghana cedis in terms of work he was doing, and then the cost of the machine that he actually uses for sewing, worth about 4,000 Ghana cedis now. It's a complete wreck here, and people have lost big time. Let's interact with more people and get to find out what exactly they have lost and what their story is. Eja, morning.
Morning.
What's your first name?
Maxwell Otu.
Maxwell Otu.
Aye.
Max, then now we are.
Master, me pama dia and me to school uniform so.
Yo, now store na we hefa pote.
Packing machines na machine na go ho na man.
Now also saying na we are what say aha eja to ha as say oba.
Master, me 12 midnight and my sister ba come ni na ejuma na offer me say eja to kantamato. Am say enti odu ho ya niam na nyina hyi. Ya niam na nyina hyi. Enti ana me bibini ka ba no e machine so e machine ni nyina be bia hyi. Enti me tell school uniform ni nyina na me to no school uniform apam ade agu ho. School uniform apam ni nyina ade agu ho ni nyina hyi. Enti ban mi sanka be bia na ma bia na wo mi sanka.
Enti fire service for no buy no enkita ho ben na mo enyae na wo ho.
Na mi ni ho mbebedu ho anopa we na mbedu ye enti na me hu say omo ho.
Now, more of these stories, of people who have lost property. But Adebagon so amatene say, ebino mo kase ansana ye beto abano na amanfo keka kan sembi. Ensembe insana na amanfo keka mujidi say ansha eja sebi arson anase obi na ahyeda edi eja abeto ha. Me bra pato e say.
Me did kwekwahin.
Roughly
and right in brain na me pon bi hanom no. Ambra me kom kodu fie na Mr. Baku friend me say, yes, a jato catamanto. Unfortunately, I say, Miss Ansamichi. Timbedu had me who fire 10 no, bear 2 hanum. Still, Omuye bia, still, Anye. Yes, I best call say, another 10 as Suba hanum, still, Anye. Tierra inside, I say, no, all my property has lost almost 8 machines. If you have a club, I 1,000, 4,000, almost 200 million, and the cheap. Intermit me can't make me as a babron idea. At first, I mean, I met me a car, but me the Bemanyami, Yamini Dini, Tibronia, you bet in Pepe.
Also, Yamene Hene, Nemomo, Yate or Donna, Diana, I say, Mwaka Crabba, Monso more try say Mwabi Baba Mamona.
Says ya de Becca buying, until I buy no Becca Treno, near Hunia Bear.
Na Nana America and Sana, you started to see a chicken come away, you know. Ebinomo Kase, na Omote, near maybe say, aha. Eje beto ha na bibisa oti bibisa
sana omokano sana mesumetino sana metino
kwa na mo na ekekasa
ende se nipa domo ewa nipa ne doso ntimi nkyere nipa se nipa che obi aka bi nti anya me kwa na me ka bi
yo Eja morning
Eja
pacho e frozen
ya from
Kwabreje pacho yesi we peni wa ha den poti na we wa ha
me pamade
Opamade. Na omo bo ha ni na no una odi omo anim ana.
E fan me wo mu ne de me na bidi won anim.
Nti e fan ben na wo.
Me wo esoro ha. Lane 16.
Lane 16. Yo enti dan na wo te ye a che se e na no pa ya sorry ayasem ya tini.
E pa cho bra atwam no. Na aka be se na otwe mienu ni ato aba no. Ya te se ye ha e be hye. Enti no eyasama enhyehyehye ekoye pani office wo e ma won ni yi obi a wonam so ha e ma ne be nan so ye se yate bibisa yenka yakoma entu yemu na ejayehye bia e ma ane se yade a wabo an kwase wo be fa eyasama yen so yakoma eto yemu a che se bibi ama e be pim se anaju mi da ho ne ye ba be frɛ me se me hache me machine enwotwe industrial machine 8 and bundles me kitabe 50 bundles e wo ha ni nyina hye
So this morning, it is a tale of destruction right here in Kantamanto as we interact with some of these people who ply their trade here, who knit, who sew, who ensure that our school children are clothed. Well, this is the sad news that we woke up to this morning in the sewing section of Kantamanto. And people have lost lots of money, lots of property here. It only remains to be seen how exactly they're going to rise from the ashes. Right here from Kantamanto, Benjamin Akakpo reporting. Back to you in the studio, Mama V.
Benjamin Akakpo there reporting from Kantamanto, where fire, as you can see and appreciate, gutted the market. We're told it started late last night, and so persons who have lost goods sharing their stories with us. Remember that not too long ago, fire also gutted some portions of the GCB Bank, also located at Kantamanto. In fact, just opposite where this incident has happened, there was the Odona fire as well. Let's join Benjamin Akakpo again. He has something else to share with us, Ben.
Who are actually scavenging some of the scrap metal, what are the leftovers of sewing machines, industrial sewing machines here. That is the only bit that can be said to be useful, but everything else has gone into the flames. And in fact, the buildings are collapsing. Some of them are still collapsing. In fact, if you look around, you will see some of the shots where fire is still raging. And interestingly, the fire service was here. Some say between 2 to 4 tenders came here, but they could not douse the fires. And one thing that is clear is that usually because of a lack of poor access lanes, it is difficult for the fire service to get inside. And it appears that this could have been one of the scenes that transpired. Hello, good morning. Hello, morning.
Good morning.
Frozen.
The bachelor from Ogolo.
You're frozen.
Ogolo.
Ogboro. Ogboro then now you are.
Me bachelor hana mi twaniema.
Utwaniema. Okasa utwaniema den poti na opache.
Me faniema koton.
Enti wo store bi wa ha na shop bi a ho nso ahye.
Me shop bi wa no me be faniema. Enimle na me koye no mo frame ka kire me se niema ni nyina ahye. Na me saba ba. Enimle be 12 mo na me buy na no kure se niema ni nyina ahye.
Wo shop na wo hefa sai.
O to anu.
Enti sani anema yesesi a no den na wo hwa yebetimi aya ma o.
Mesre aban ne se omoye na the experience bia no omoye no onfiri mu na onfanshi mai no no an ye beda no tie yesra aban ne se ono so mbo emblem na ye mo an so behia tie yesra aban ne se ono an ye de ani beto no so nti onto ne ni emehwe
ye da say mommy morning we did the same
me did the yasewa
then away wa ha
me pacho me travels
enti eja ato ha you know den na ato we ni wo shop wa ha
me shop mienu ba ku elen 12 na ba ku elen 17 na me base so 11 base ni nyina ahye eti me sra ban so wo moaye moaye ndi ayentimi ti yesende ye ne ma bedi krapon aye dina ma yetu aban wo moaye na fire service for na baye wo ma moaye wo mu di kan ne baye no wo mu mieso mu di baye no mo tu ago na nsuo nim eti fire service for na moaye eti yesra ban so wo moaye
what's the fire service for na moamo say kana tenders no but they buy no
na nsuo nim nsuo ba kokura nim First one
so let's morning
you're
frozen
me di Kofi
nema wo kekai na wo ha wo di wani hu ye
me wa ha na me wa ha me do before 12 o'clock me tinyanya no ana e frame say Kantamanto hye.
All right, so that's Benjamin Akakpo reporting from the Kantamanto market where fire, as you can see, has gutted the market. Well, what we do know is that the fire started at around 10 p.m. Firefighters did respond to the distress call and battle the fire throughout the night. What you see is the remains of the market this morning. And I guess we all appreciated when things happen. There are a lot of speculations. Even people who did not witness it will say all sorts of things. But, you know, we can appreciate the fact that they've lost goods, they've lost lots of money in the process. We'll see the kind of response that we will get as all of them are making an appeal on the state. But in a separate development, still on Tuesday, which was just yesterday, fire also gutted some shops in Koforidua in the eastern region and also destroyed goods. And I was just recounting that there was also fire at the GCB Bank, portions of it also in Kantamanto not too long ago. And then remember the Odona incident as well. We will try and maybe put the spotlight on this subject of fires again, God willing, tomorrow here on our show. But we have to move on to another issue that has come back. It's come back and is strongly being debated in Parliament again. We'll just take a little breather. We'll come back and introduce that subject. The issue about the Public Universities Bill is back and is being talked about in Parliament. Has generated a lot of comments. During the review segment here of our show, my colleague Joseph Akable was just reminding us of an article that's been published by Professor Raymond Atuguba, where he addresses this issue and also says in that piece that the bill could be passed into law in the next 24 or 72 hours or even sooner, and drawing the attention to why it must be stopped. Let's have a conversation on the back of this with Professor Kwejo Appiagyei, Etua lecturer with the University of Ghana Law Faculty. A very good morning to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining me here on the AM show.
Good morning and thanks for having me.
Great. Do we know the form in which this current bill before Parliament is? Is it same as what we had seen in the past?
Well, in substance, it's the same, but there has been some changes that would seem to indicate that there has been some reforms to the bill as a sort of an attempt to indicate that the government has responded to the issues that we have raised previously. But in substance, the bill remains the same as it is.
Mm. Do you get the sense that this is being rushed?
Certainly, because we had the assurance from the Minister of State in charge of tertiary education that there was going to be consultation. And in fact, the Office of the Special Rapporteur on the Right to Education and the Right to Freedom of Expression had written to the government indicating that they were opposed to the nature of the bill, so it should either be withdrawn or it should be subject to some amendments through consultation. So when the Minister of State came to announce that there was going to be a consultation, we thought that it was in line with what the two special rapporteurs were saying. And therefore, we have been waiting for such a consultation, only to hear that the bill has been returned to Parliament and it was being debated on the floor.
Mm. So is it false, though, that the groups have all agreed, and when I say groups, I mean stakeholders?
Say it again, please.
So I'm asking, is it false when we hear that all stakeholders had agreed to this bill that is being debated in Parliament now?
Not at all. It's not true. Of course, University of Ghana decided to stand out because at a certain point in time, UTAG National was contending that the bill should not be passed in its present form. But it also made the point that they will be amenable to some amendments so long as the amendments meet their demands. But University of Ghana stood out and said that we are totally opposed to the bill and it shouldn't be passed in any shape or form. But UTAG National has indicated that they were not even consulted on that front. And so as it stands, everything was rushed through. There was no consultation, and therefore the bill is as government wants it to be.
So this is not UTAG Legon chapter opposing to this. You're not standing alone here.
No, we are not standing alone here. We are not the only party that has not been consulted. All the other stakeholders have not.
Okay, great. I've been reading Professor Tuguba's piece, but can you explain why he says, for instance, that there's nothing good about this bill?
There's nothing good about it because the bill as it stands, initially we have opposed it on 3 grounds. The fact that it is unconstitutional, the fact that it is unnecessary, and the fact that it will create unfettered bureaucratic processes that will slow down the effective functioning of the university. These critical elements are still in there. But we also see other attempts by the government to sort of make the things even more difficult for the university under this arrangement. For example, it's referring to parts of the Constitution to justify the power of the president to dissolve the University Council. Initially, it was a case of emergency. You say that where there's an emergency. And we made a strong case that how do you define emergency? And under what conditions can the government say that there's been an emergency on the campus? You don't see that anymore there. But rather, the government is going to Article 297 of the Constitution to justify the power of the president to dissolve a university council. And that is even broader than what one would have expected under an emergency situation. We are also concerned about the admission process. A university should have the power to admit its own to people to the university based on certain laid down criteria. The memorandum specifically says that the flagship program of the government, which is the free senior high school program, is supposed to open way for access to a broader number of students to attend. Therefore, we see a link there that the government may end up controlling admissions to the university, and which will therefore dilute the quality of the students who will qualify to come to the university, which should be based on the university's own criteria as determined by the academic board and other institutions of the particular university.
So I have a curious question, and one of the things that Professor Tuguba raises is the fact that this bill vests in the president the power to appoint chancellors of the public universities, where he goes on to say that that will be contrary to Article 195 of the Constitution, which provides that officers of the university shall be appointed by the council of the university and not the president. But this is a conversation that is taking place in Parliament. So if this is contrary to the Constitution, shouldn't they be the first to acknowledge this? Hello, Professor Piejetia.
Sorry, your line froze for some few seconds. So
okay, great. So I was
end of what you said.
I was just highlighting the bit about the president being vested the power to appoint vice chancellors and how that is contrary, according to what I've read from Professor Tuguba, contrary to the Constitution. And I'm just asking if Parliament should not be, Parliament should be aware of the fact that this is against the Constitution. Shouldn't they readily know this?
That is what baffles us. And it's not only with respect to the Chancellor. The appointment of the chairman of the council, the composition of council, the appointment of the procedure for the appointment of the vice chancellor, the fact that the government wants to say that it can appoint an interim council to run the university until a period. All these run contrary to the Constitution. That is why we are all baffled by the fact that these elements are going into the law when these elements are clearly ultra vires the Constitution.
There was a justification, one of the examples that the education minister said to Parliament, and we all heard it. And that sounded very convincing when he says, for instance, that when you take a loan in terms of the university, I think he was talking about the University of Ghana, and it becomes impossible to pay back, you would turn to the states. So if the state is trying to get some powers, notify governments and get some kind of supervision, you shouldn't be fighting it.
Certainly, the university would want to say that the need for financial management should be something that should be respected, and there should not be a quarrel about that. But our point is that there are currently existing laws that take care of that, about 2 or 3 laws. And even in the University of Ghana Act, for example, itself, and I'm sure it's in the other acts of the other universities as well, there are provisions made for this means of controlling the financial conditions of the universities. So it is not about making new laws to deal with the matter. It's about enforcing the existing laws. The existing laws, for example, make it clear that if an individual or whether it's the vice chancellor or the finance director of the university and so on, who gets the university into such debts, that person should be held personally responsible. So these are some of the rules in the laws that we think should be rather enforced. Instead of going through the Ministry of Education, can you imagine a number of universities? Each one of them has, even to buy chairs for the university, it has to go through the office of the Minister of Education. It is going to be laborious and it's going to be slow and expensive at the end of the day. And it's going to take away the financial autonomy of the university. So certainly it is not the proper way to deal with such a problem. People who have been held found responsible should be held responsible individually. It's one of the ways that the current law as it is supposed to deal with this problem. There can be some amendments to make it tighter and stronger, but it is not about coming up with a new law that in the end will not help solve the problem.
So, Prof,
and our concern related to that is the fact that there are also the universities are among the least corrupt institutions you find among the public institutions. And if we hold such a standard, people should rather be looking up to us. And to give that authority to the ministry may not help the situation where we have situations of corruption being more rampant and unchecked running through various public institutions.
So, Prof, who is fighting with you on this? This sounds like a huge battle, but we see only lecturers fighting this, and it should be the people, shouldn't it?
Yes, it should be the people, because at the end of the day, if you are talking about the university, the stakeholders are very broad. We have, of course, the lecturers that are now taking up the fight. University management itself should be part of it. The parents whose children are going to come to the university and whose children are still in university should be part of it. The University Students Association should be part of it. National Union of Ghana Students. We've had stakeholders like CDD, IDEC, and so on coming in support.
Yeah, but why do I still get the sense that you're standing alone? And usually it's the UG lecturers that we hear on this matter, not even on the national basis in terms of UTAC.
Well, unfortunately, I must be frank and say that the national leadership has sort of disappointed us. That is why at a certain point in time, University of Ghana decided to go it alone in trying to say that we will hold a press conference, we will do this and provide the necessary checks on the government. So it is now up to UTAC National, the leadership, to stand up and face the government head on to make sure that this law doesn't get passed. We have held the fort in a lot of ways for UTAC National. And we all see that as part of a bigger fight that we are all fighting. So we are not claiming, University of Ghana is not claiming credit for that. But I think that at a certain point in time, the national leadership should hold on to what we are doing so that we fight together to ensure that we achieve this important.
Is this a fight that you can win, seeing as we're hearing that this could probably be passed sooner?
Well, we haven't lost hope. We still think that.
Hello, sir.
At the parliamentary level, because the law may still get passed. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. There was just a little break, but you're saying that you haven't lost hope.
All right. We haven't lost hope, but we have little opportunity to influence Parliament. But still, the meeting is coming off at 2 p.m. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
However, if that battle is lost, the law will still have to go to the president to assent to the law. And the president could do us the honor of saying that based on a promise he gave us on Oman FM somewhere in September prior to the elections, he said that he himself admitted that there were some problems and challenges with the law, especially the University Council composition. Therefore, he was amenable to even allow for some consultation. So we will appeal to him directly not to sign the law, or at least to delay it until a new parliament comes into being on January 7th, and the law is reviewed, whereby consultation takes place.
Okay.
And we can ensure that the recommendation from the special rapporteurs on right to education and right to freedom of expression will also be respected.
Okay.
And the government will then make a report to those two special rapporteurs to ensure that Ghana's image on with respect to human rights on the international plane is also not dented by this bill coming into force.
Okay, Prof, we'll leave it here and we will follow up after the 2 p.m. meeting. It's a long stretch, though, because the presidency, the executive, is where the bill is coming from. So if we have to rely on a last-minute resort, which is to appeal to the president not to, assent to it, that will be a very long one. But we'll wait to see what happens, the outcome of the 2 p.m. meeting, and we'll pick it up from tomorrow.
Very well. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Professor Kwadwo Appiah-Etia is a lecturer with the University of Ghana. We've been talking about the public universities bill. That conversation has started again in Parliament strongly. But are you interested in learning about the impact of cloud on your business? Then join the Invest for Jobs on Joy FM Facebook page from 2:30 p.m. today, this afternoon. If this is an area of interest, you want to get all, just be armed with jobs on Joy FM Facebook. Join the Invest for Jobs on Joy FM Facebook, 2:30 p.m. Stay with us. We've got show business right after this.
Good morning. You're welcome to the showbiz segment right here on the AM show. My name is Kadi. Now let's speak about Afro-soul musician Abiana, who before going solo worked with high school band, and she is revealing that her maiden single, Adule, motivated her to go solo after she received positive reviews from patrons. Now in this interview, she also speaks about her new single, Amen, and her forthcoming album.
I've been doing this for 6 years, and then I just started my solo music career because I've been doing the live music for 6 years, so I just began to do my live music.
Okay. So how did you decide to transition from singing, live band to doing solo music? What pushed you to do that?
So it's all began when I started writing Adunle. So the song Adunle, once I started writing it and I did the demo, everyone that listened to it, they treasured it and then they wanted the world to hear. So as I wrote Adunle and then people were hearing it and then people were like, Abi, the world has to hear this. And then I thought about it. I was like, let me just go solo and then let the world appreciate the music that I have.
Okay, you just mentioned Adunle. What kind of language do you speak in? Or what languages do you speak in?
Yes, so my mom is Ewe, my father is Ga. So Adunle is Ga. So if you know Achokulikuli, yes, Achokulikuli is a traditional snack, very hard, and it's like a monkey's tail. So they call it Adunle in Ga. So I use that snack to metaphorically describe a feeling where when you chew the the adunle, that snack, it's very difficult to chew, but yet it's like it's nice. Like when you're chewing it, it's difficult. Your jaws are going to ache you. So I used it to just describe the song and then the feeling in the song. Sometimes you're in a relationship and it feels like you're giving the person so much love, and then that love is not given back to you. So I use that to describe that feeling. So that's adunle. But there's a second one coming in, which is amen.
Okay.
So it's all part of an album that I've prepared. So it's like
just releasing singles.
Yes, before I release the whole album.
Okay. So how many singles have you released off the album?
It's just Adunle is the first one. This is the second one that we're about to release.
That was Abiana. Now, musician Kofi Kinata is also speaking of his new single, Something Nice, which features Nigerian artist Pato Rankin. Now, he's revealed that it's a party song to help people de-stress after a stressful year.
Kofi Kinata featuring Pato Rankin, and the name of the song is Something Nice. So he's talking about everything nice, anything nice. It's actually a party song. It's for entertainment, just have fun. 2020 has been, I wouldn't say, but I would say we've been through a lot in 2020. So getting to the end of 2020, we needed something to, have fun with it, just to forget about whatever happened in 2020. So Something Nice is a party song, dance song, just have fun with it.
Okay, so you can go check out that song and just have fun with it. But that's all we have for Showbiz for this morning. There's more Showbiz at midday with Becky. My name is Cardi. Thanks for tuning in.